So season 3 of Fishtank Live ended a couple of days ago, and for seasons 2 and 2.5, I did a debrief video where I talked about my involvement and my mindset and certain things that were from the point of view of somebody who was there. And since I wasn't involved in season 3, I obviously can't do a debrief video. So what I'm going to do instead is a review video where I talk about things that I liked, disliked, and just anything in between. It was a very interesting season, and you could say a lot about it. And everything that I say is from a standpoint of love, obviously, right? I'm very proud of Sam, Jet, Ben, and the whole crew for what they were able to accomplish with season 3. So with that said, we're going to get started with the pros, and I'm going to be reading on my phone just to make it a little bit easier. I will add a little bit more context to the bullet points that I have. Number one is excellent gaslight with Famous House. And that was something that was so good that I'm almost afraid, right? Because I don't think they're going to become overly reliant on it, but it's something that it was really good. And part of the reason it was really good is because it was so novel. If they do it a few too many times, if they become overly reliant on it, it might kind of lose its luster a little bit. And I don't want to see that happen because I love the Famous House bit. There's so much potential with that. So I hope that they are going to space that out, I guess you could say. The next one I have is the house and tech were fantastic this season. And yeah, they fixed a lot of the issues they had with the tech over the last few seasons. And also the house was really good. I really liked the house. I remember showing up for 2.5 and seeing that for the first time, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It was another step up for them, and it was a big step up, and I think that's really cool. It shows that Fishtank is moving in that direction. After that, I had Ben and Sam had excellent characters with more subtle, funny bits and moments with Vance, Luca, and Jet. And yes, that is one of the best parts of this season, in my opinion. Ben and Sam did so good playing the characters that they did, especially Ben. Ben was easily one of the best parts of this season when it came to the Famous House bit. That was he did so good. He did so good. And then in addition to that, it was funny to see Vance keep messing things up, and there was just like rising tension that was obviously fake between everybody, or Jet walking around pretending to be a low level member of production with people not realizing exactly who he was. I wrote down Frank was excellent this season, and that was an understatement and then some, because this was easily the best Frank season that we have had so far. In seasons 1 and 2, he'd show up, he'd do his thing, he'd hassle people, you know, because that's just what he was there to do. But in season 3, part of the hassling was actually getting involved in the ecosystem of the house, making an alliance with Bert in order to gaslight him. But that's really what made it, and I want to see Frank try to get involved a little bit more in the way that he did with Bert in season 3. You know, maybe not pretending to be gay for a black porn star, but other ways, other ways. The second to last one I have for the pros is when it all fell apart, they didn't just cut and run. They tried to give people something, which is the right thing to do, but also it was nice to see them just say, screw it, let's not hang our heads. I think that was the best thing they could have done, the RV trip, or one of the best things that they could have done, because nobody wants to see them hang their heads in defeat. Nobody wants to see them mope around, you know? It was the right thing to do because they promised 42 days of content, and they weren't going to be able to do that at the house for one reason or another. So they tried their best to do something. And there were times where it was nice to just kind of see everybody hanging out and doing things that they thought were fun and just trying their best to give us something. The Ball Brothers concert, for instance, that was a good idea that I'm sure they came up with on the fly. Overall, yeah, the season kind of fell apart, but it was heartening. It was heartening to see them not just be like, all right, whatever, peace. And the last one I have is the finale was about as good as you could make it. And I'm going to revise that to say that that was probably the best finale that we could have gotten given the situation. I think it was very fitting. In season 1, whether we realized it or not, we were kind of building towards that good versus evil ending. In season 2, again, whether we realized it or not, we were kind of building towards the boxing ending. In season 3, it didn't really feel like we were building towards anything. And because of that, I feel like it was probably hard to have anything other than the finale that we had, where Bert was left out in the desert with that revised novelty check that says $0 on it, and then they just kind of walk off. I think that was honestly, there was a certain stroke of genius to it that I think really kind of made it. It was kind of an upturn at the last minute. Okay, so for the cons, I had the cast sucked. And yeah, in my opinion, this was the weakest cast that we have had. And when I say weak, I don't mean mentally weak or anything like that. I mean, these people just weren't that interesting to me. There was nobody that I really latched onto because I was like, yo, I want to see how this guy moves. I want to see this guy do well. That's what happened with season one. I latched onto John pretty quick. Season two, Shinji. That was my guy for a long time. And even when John got kicked in season one, I was able to move on to the next fish that I was like, you know what, I want to see this person do well. Season three had absolutely positively none of that. And it's partially because they casted people that you wanted to see tortured and things like that. So it's kind of by design, but I feel like in theory it was good. In practice, for me, it was just not that good. The next one I had was the fight sucked. And here's the thing, boxing is kind of a part of the Fishtank brand. It's been there since season one. They didn't have fights, but they had workouts and things like that. Season two, fights became a big part of the meta. 2.5, we even had fights. Bitch Tank, there were a couple of fights. And with season three, that continued. We had more fights. And season three easily had some of the worst fights. And I think it comes down to one, the people that were casted, but then two, also the fact that they just didn't have any training. And because of that, they were just kind of, throwing ham hocks at each other, uncoordinated. Next, I had, it felt like there was nothing building to anything. And I also wrote, the finale was nice, but it wasn't built to, it was begrudgingly accepted given the circumstances. Like I said, the finale was as good as you could have made it, but it's like I said there, it was kind of begrudgingly accepted more so than it was something that people were like, oh yeah, we've been building towards this for a little while. Let's do it. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's just kind of what happens when you have a season like the one that you had. There were a lot of risks that were taken, and a few of those risks that may have been able to have been built off of, they just didn't pan out. So, you just kind of get what you get. The next one I had was people left after the reveal. And here's the thing, people were going to leave after the reveal. So this is kind of a weird one to put down. And I don't know exactly what was going through my head when I put this one down, but it is definitely a con. There were a few people who left after the reveal that probably would have been uh, good for the late game, and that sucks. And I don't know if there was anything that could have been done to keep them. I personally think that if they had a physical outlet, if they had a workout regimen, it may have helped them out. It may have helped them to relieve a little bit of stress and things like that. But other than that, I really couldn't even tell you what may have possibly, potentially helped some of these people out. And the last one I had was they brought in new contestants just to kick them seemingly arbitrarily. And I'm not 100% sure why that happened. Whether it was just they had something in mind and it fell through because of certain things that happened. I know they brought in the new contestants, told the old contestants, hey, you have to conspire against the noobs. And then that just didn't happen. Symbol got kicked off immediately. I don't know if that was the triggering event as to where they were like, whatever, this was a bad idea. We're just going to kick all the new cast, or if it was something else. I have no clue. But it just kind of sucked to have all these people introduced, and then we're trying to get used to them. And some people are actually kind of making an impression on us, and then out of nowhere, bam, they eat the elimination chocolate, and or they have the elimination gem or whatever it was. I think season three was a great season. Was it the best? No, definitely not. I think it had the potential to surpass the other two seasons, but it didn't do enough by the time the RV saga hit. The way I see it, it also became something other than Fish Tank when it hit that point as well. I really don't know what was going on in the basement. That's their business. But the way Jet describes it, it seems like they ran out of ideas as well as the stamina to think up new ones. And this really shows the importance of filler content. Now, during season two, I did karate, and it was loved by some and hated by others. But regardless of whether it was loved or hated, it served multiple purposes, including giving the fish and production a break from the insanity. If Jet and Ben can think up, say, 30 days of bits and challenges before and during the season, they can rest a little easier knowing they can throw something like karate at the fish to space out their ideas, as well as to regroup and plan when they need to. The other explanation given by Sam about basically being kicked out is plausible given some of the stuff I remember from 2.5, but I still feel like it could be a gaslight, and even if it wasn't, there's something that kind of tells me it wasn't just that. I feel like it was probably a combination of those two things, and who knows, maybe even some other stuff. Regardless of all that stuff, like I said, I think it was a really good season, and there's stuff that they can learn from, both good and bad. And I think season 4 is going to be even stronger because of that. I'm really proud of all these guys, and I can't wait to see what they have cooked up in the future. And even though I wasn't involved in this season, I still had a really good time watching it and keeping an eye on everything and talking to everybody who was in the chat and stuff like that. Hopefully, I will be on season 4, but we'll see what happens. But that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and also sub for more. And if you have anything to say, leave a comment down below. Also, if you're interested in exclusive content, I have a Patreon, $5 a month. The link should be in the description. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, good luck out there.